It started when my friend Ethan asked me to drop off his old textbooks. His mom lived alone now, after the divorce, in that same quiet cul-de-sac where the air smelled faintly of pine and rain. I'd been there before, years ago, when we were just kids playing video games in her living room. Back then, she was just Mrs. Harlow. Now, I don't know. I parked outside, the porch light already on. It cast this warm, amber glow through the rain mist. When she opened the door, for a second, I forgot what I was holding. She looked exactly like I remembered and nothing like it at the same time. Hair tied loosely, sleeves rolled up, a soft tiredness in her eyes that didn't make her look older, just real. "Oh, hi," she said, smoothing her hair like she hadn't been expecting anyone. "You've grown up." Her smile did something strange to my chest. I handed her the books. "Ethan said you might need these." She took them, her fingers brushing mine. It wasn't intentional, but it lingered longer than it should have. "Come in," she said. "It's raining too hard to just stand there." The house smelled like coffee and rain-soaked wood. I followed her to the kitchen, the sound of the clock filling the quiet. She poured me tea, not asking, just doing it like it was something natural between us. "You're in college now, right?" "Yeah, second year." "You always were the quiet one." I smiled. "Still am, I guess." She leaned on the counter, looking at me, really looking. Her gaze wasn't polite or detached. It was searching, like she was trying to remember who I used to be, or maybe seeing something new she hadn't expected. There was a kind of silence between us that wasn't awkward. It felt like standing at the edge of something we both didn't understand. Her wedding ring was gone. I noticed it but said nothing. She noticed me noticing, and her eyes softened. "People change," she said quietly. "Sometimes faster than we plan to." I nodded, not sure if she was talking about herself or me. Maybe both. She smiled again, this time smaller. "You know, Ethan always said you were different, that you don't talk much, but you notice things." "I guess," I said, laughing under my breath. "Noticing things doesn't help much if you don't say them out loud." She tilted her head, and for the briefest second, her expression shifted, like she wanted to ask what it was I'd noticed. Then she didn't. Instead, she said softly, "Maybe it's not about saying them. Maybe it's about being the kind of person who can see what others miss." I didn't know what to do with that. Her words hung in the air, close enough to touch. I could hear the rain drumming against the window, the faint hum of the fridge, and the quiet rhythm of her breathing. She was standing only a few feet away now. "Mrs. Harlow," I started. "Call me Claire," she said. It shouldn't have felt as intimate as it did. But it did. It felt like something shifted, a door quietly unlocking. Before I could say anything else, the doorbell rang. She froze. I saw her hand tighten around her cup. Her voice was calm, but her eyes weren't when she said, "Don't say anything yet." And then she walked away toward the sound, leaving me in that quiet kitchen. Her words still echoing in my head, refusing to let go when she came back. The rain had quieted, but I could still hear it dripping from the roof. Whoever was at the door didn't stay long. Just a short exchange, a polite thank you, and then the sound of it closing. She returned with that same half-smile, but something in her face had shifted. She looked exposed, like whatever had happened at the door peeled back a layer she'd been trying to hold together. "Sorry about that," she said softly, brushing a damp strand of hair behind her ear. "It's fine," I said, though my heart hadn't slowed since she left the room. Claire sat down across from me, hands wrapped around her mug, eyes somewhere else. "An old friend," she said finally, almost to herself. "I think he still believes I'm the same person I used to be." I didn't know what to say. The way she said it, tired but fragile, made me want to ask, but I didn't. She looked like someone who'd been listening to people for too long, and no one had listened back. "I know that feeling," I said quietly. She looked up. "You do?" "Yeah. People think they know who you are because of who you were." Her lips curved just a little, like that answer surprised her. She leaned back. "How old are you again?" 20. She laughed softly. "That young?" The way she said young didn't sound like an insult. It sounded like she was measuring the distance between us. Not years, but the places life had taken her that I hadn't reached yet. I was married at your age, she said after a pause. Thought I knew everything. Turns out, I didn't know myself at all. Her eyes drifted toward the window, catching the reflection of her own face in the glass. He was good to me, but I stopped being myself around him. Or maybe I just disappeared a little every year. There was silence, the kind that isn't empty but too full. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. She smiled faintly. Don't be. It's just life. Then, quieter. You'll understand someday. I wanted to tell her that I already did, that I knew what it was like to feel invisible, even when surrounded by people. But I didn't, because that would have made something real that we were both pretending wasn't there. Instead, I said, "You don't disappear to me." Her eyes met mine. A small breath escaped her lips, shaky and unguarded. I hadn't meant to say it, not out loud. She stood suddenly, as if distance could fix what words had broken. "You should go soon," she murmured. I stood too, but neither of us moved toward the door. The space between us felt charged, not dangerous, just unbearably alive. Then, without thinking, she reached out and brushed a drop of rain from my sleeve. Just that one slow touch, but it felt like something permanent. For a second, she didn't pull her hand back, and I didn't move. It had been weeks since that night at her house, but I couldn't stop thinking about the way she said my name. Soft, unsure, like she was afraid of how it sounded out loud. We'd been careful after that. Messages kept short, visits always with a reason. She'd call sometimes, asking about Ethan, pretending she'd forgotten where he was living now. And every time, her voice lingered a little longer before the call ended. Then, one Friday night, she asked if I could help fix a light in the hallway. It was a flimsy excuse, but I said yes anyway. When I got there, she was in a pale sweater, hair tied loose, barefoot. The house was quiet except for the faint sound of a slow jazz record playing in the other room. I climbed the small step stool, replaced the bulb, and for a moment the warm light flooded back in. She smiled, squinting against it. "You always manage to make things work again." Something in her tone made me stop breathing for a second. "Do you ever get lonely here?" I asked, immediately regretting how it sounded. Her eyes flickered to mine. "You shouldn't ask things like that." "I know." We stood there, a few feet apart, pretending the silence wasn't heavy. Then she walked past me, brushing my shoulder, and went to pour herself some wine. "You want one?" "I don't really drink." She smirked. "Neither do I. Not anymore." She handed me the glass anyway. Our fingers touched. "Too long." "Ethan called," she said suddenly, voice quiet. "He told me you haven't been hanging out much lately." I shrugged. "He's busy." "Because of me?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The look on her face said she already knew. She set the glass down, her voice trembling slightly. "This is wrong, isn't it?" "Probably," I said. "But that doesn't stop me from thinking about you." Her breath caught, and for the first time she didn't look away. The air between us felt thin, electric. "I shouldn't let you say that," she whispered. "Then tell me to leave." She didn't. Instead, she stepped closer. The record kept spinning, low, warm, old. I could smell her perfume, faint and clean, like something that didn't belong in a room this quiet. "Do you know what you're doing?" she asked, voice unsteady. "No," I said honestly. "Do you?" She smiled then, not happy, not sad. Just surrendering to something we'd both been avoiding. "You're too young to carry this kind of mistake," she whispered. "I don't think it's a mistake." Her hand came up, trembling slightly, fingertips brushing my jaw. I didn't move, couldn't. We stayed like that, her eyes searching mine, the distance between us no longer safe. And then, a car door slammed outside. Headlights swept across the window. She froze. "Ethan," she said under her breath. The glass tipped, spilling wine across the counter. Neither of us moved. The headlights disappeared, but the silence that followed was worse than any sound. Claire's hand was still on my arm, cold now. We didn't breathe until the engine faded down the street. When she finally spoke, her voice was just a whisper. He wasn't supposed to come by tonight. Ethan? She nodded, biting her lip. He dropped off something for me last week. A spare key. My stomach sank. Claire! She pulled away, pacing slowly. If he saw your car here... She stopped, pressing a hand against her forehead. He'll know something's wrong. He knows me too well. The warmth between us vanished, replaced by a different kind of heat. Panic, guilt, something sour that burned in the throat. I took a step toward her. We didn't do anything. Her eyes met mine, sharp and sad. You think that matters? The word stung because I knew she was right. Whatever this was, whatever had almost happened, it didn't need proof. The truth was already alive between us, breathing louder than either of us dared admit. She turned away, gripping the counter like she needed it to stay upright. He's all I have left that still believes I'm decent. Don't say that. I'm serious, Daniel. Her voice cracked. If he even suspects... She stopped herself, eyes shining. I'll lose him. For good. I'd never heard her sound afraid before. It was worse than anger. It was the sound of someone who'd already lost too much. I swallowed hard. Then tell me what to do. She faced me again, and something inside her seemed to close. You should go home. Forget this happened. But before I could argue, her phone buzzed on the counter. The name Ethan lit up the screen. Her hand shook as she answered. Hey, honey, she said, voice suddenly calm, practiced. No, I'm fine. Just a bit of a headache. No one's here. Why? I stood frozen, every word a knife. She glanced at me once while speaking. A silent plea not to move, not to make a sound. Then she smiled faintly into the phone. Love you too. When she hung up, she didn't look at me right away. She just exhaled slowly, like she'd been underwater for too long. He saw your car, she said finally. My pulse jumped. What? He said it looked like yours. He asked why you'd be here at night. I waited for her to tell me she'd denied it, but she didn't. Instead, she said quietly, I told him you came by to help fix the light, that you left an hour ago. I stepped closer. So now what? Her voice was steady again, but her eyes weren't. Now I pretend you didn't stay. Something broke in her tone. Not anger, not regret. Something quieter and more permanent. I wanted to tell her I'd never stop thinking about her. But before I could, she whispered the only thing that truly hurt. Don't call me for a while. And then, almost to herself, it's safer if you don't. The first few weeks were a kind of quiet punishment, her silence filling every space that used to hold her voice. I deleted our messages, her number, even her address from my phone. But I still remembered the way she said Daniel, careful, like it might mean something she wasn't ready to admit. I told myself I was over it, that it was better this way. But sometimes, late at night, I'd find myself driving past her street. I never stopped, just slowed down enough to see that faint porch light still burning, the one she never turned off. Then one evening, I got a text from her. Can you come by? Just for a minute. No reason, no explanation, but I was already on my way. When she opened the door, she looked different. Softer, tired, but lighter somehow. The air between us wasn't heavy this time. It was quiet, like both of us had been waiting for the other to speak first. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I wasn't sure you wanted me to. We stood there for a moment before she stepped aside. Ethan moved out last week, she said quietly. Got a job in Denver. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt relief, the other part, guilt. I didn't call because I thought it would hurt less, she went on, her voice trembling. But it didn't. It just made the silence mean something it shouldn't have. I looked at her, really looked. The faint lines near her eyes, the way her hands fidgeted when she was nervous, the softness she tried to hide under calmness. I'd missed all of it. You could have told me, I said. I was afraid, she whispered. Not of you, but of what people would see if they looked too closely. Maybe they just see two people trying not to fall apart, I said. Her laugh was small, shaky. You make it sound simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. She stepped closer, eyes searching mine. You think this could ever be okay? I didn't answer right away. The truth was I didn't know. Maybe it wouldn't be okay, not in the world's eyes. But standing there, with the rain starting again outside, I didn't care. I think, I said finally, it already is. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for months. Then, slowly, she reached for my hand. Her fingers slid into mine, tentative at first, then certain. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. That touch, quiet, trembling, real, said everything. For a long moment, we just stood there in the half-light, the storm whispering against the windows. Then she looked up, eyes wet but calm. If we do this, she said softly, we can't keep pretending. I nodded. I don't want to. Outside, thunder rolled again the same way it had months ago. Patient, waiting. And for the first time, neither of us looked away. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving the world washed and quiet. The kind of silence that only comes after something's broken and begun again. I woke on her couch, blanket tucked around me. She must have done that sometime in the night. For a moment, I just lay there, listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator, the steady rhythm of her breathing in the next room. The air still smelled faintly of her perfume and rain, the scent I'd started to associate with both calm and chaos. When she walked in, she was holding 2 mugs of coffee. Her hair was slightly messy, and there were small creases on her wrist where her bracelet had pressed into her skin. She looked ordinary, beautifully ordinary. You didn't leave, she said softly. I didn't want to. She set the mugs down, took a breath, and sat across from me. I keep thinking this will feel wrong, she said. But it doesn't. Not right now. I smiled, though my heart felt heavy. Maybe that's enough. She looked at me for a long moment, her eyes unreadable. Then she said, you remind me of who I used to be, before I started apologizing for everything. Then don't apologize now, I said. Her laugh was small, honest. You make things sound simple again. We sat there, the kind of quiet that doesn't demand to be filled. It wasn't awkward anymore. It felt like understanding, raw, imperfect, real. After a while, she asked, do you ever think about the future? Every day, I said. But right now, I just want to be here. She nodded, eyes glistening. You know this can't be easy. People will talk. Ethan might hate me for a while. Maybe, I said. But he'll understand someday. She gave a small, disbelieving smile. You have too much faith in people. I leaned closer. No, just in you. Something shifted in her then. A small exhale, a soft collapse of all the defenses she'd been holding. She reached for my hand across the table, fingers curling slowly around mine. Daniel, she said, almost a whisper, if this ends badly, then it ends honestly. I finished for her. She closed her eyes for a second, and when she opened them, there was peace there. Fragile but real. Outside, sunlight was breaking through the clouds, painting the kitchen in gold. She smiled at the light like it was some kind of sign. Maybe we get to start over, she said. Together. Her answer was quiet, but sure. If we're brave enough. I squeezed her hand gently. Then let's be. The clock ticked. The world moved on. But in that small kitchen, time slowed. Not a happy ending. Not a tragic one. Just something human. And maybe that was the point all along.